Hi, Joe, and thanks for chatting with me today. Everybody knows that you're an international career confidence coach, well-established speaker as well, and author.
Thank you.
And yes, I'd just like to say thank you for chatting with me on your bank holiday. And I just wanted to explore some ideas around confidence, and you are the best person to ask. So without further ado, just to ask a few questions. In the current circumstances, understandably, our confidence levels might drop. So how can we ensure that these confidence levels don't drop?
Yeah, thanks, Bex, for inviting me to speak. It's great to be here. And yes, it's a really difficult time for everybody at the moment. I mean, for some people harder than others, but everybody has that sort of low-level anxiety at the moment. And feeling that they've lost some control over their lives. You know, we're not able to do the things we would normally take for granted. And that really does cause quite a bit of anxiety, even anger, frustration, all of these sorts of emotions in people. And when you're under that sort of level of stress or frustration for a long period of time, it does chip away at your confidence and it can affect your mental health. So the thing really to focus on is your emotional resilience. And by resilience, I mean that ability to bounce back, to recover from difficult situations. And with resilience, you can't do anything necessarily about where you are now, but you can make sure that you're mentally prepared and in a good place whilst we're going through this lockdown. So simple self-care things, you know, looking after your fitness, what you're eating, slowing down from life and having less high expectations of yourself. All of those sorts of things can help. And thinking about what are the goals that I can have while I'm here, while I'm in lockdown, you know, what are the things that I can achieve still that are in my power of influence?
Yeah, I do agree with that. And obviously, the more we invest in these confidence practices now, the better prepared we'll be for the place of work when we go back.
Yeah, very much so. And one of the good lessons about being where we are now is that there are certain things out of our influence and certain things in our control. And if you imagine sort of drawing a big circle and a smaller circle inside, and you can put certain things into that bigger circle where you've got no control and certain things into the smaller circle where you have, and keeping our focus on things we can control, which is the structure of our day, how much news we take in, how much news we ignore. It's all about those sorts of things, keeping your focus on that. But I think you're right, Bex, when we return to the new normal as such, then it's going to be a different way of working for everybody. And you want to be in a place to take good advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to invest in yourself and confidence materials or sessions. So that leads me on to how did you yourself get into confidence coaching?
Yeah, that's interesting. Seems a long time ago now. I had a 17-year corporate career in a FTSE 100 company, and I progressed up the career ladder there. And at the sort of before I left, I was coaching some of the senior people in the company.
Wow.
And when I took voluntary redundancy after having had my children, I enjoyed the coaching so much that I decided to do an extra qualification in it and see where that took me. Having recovered from an aggressive cancer, which happened about straight after that time, I'd lost my sense of purpose and confidence. So I decided that I could coach myself through that. And that's when the sort of light bulb moment went off that actually I could coach women with confidence issues, whatever the reason, whether it's career or in their personal life. And that was about 12 years ago. And the business has just taken off since then.
Well, all credit to you. And I love businesses that come from a sense of personal experience. I can tell that you've obviously got the qualities and you know, credentials, but you've got the passion from your personal journey to really help women. And that's what I like to see, the authentic passion there. So what I would like to say is there's clearly a demand for your services, and this time and beyond. So we're often told in the media, and with multiple magazines reinforcing this as well, that women have less confidence statistically than men. And I'd just like to explore that. Do you think that statement is true? And if so, why?
I don't think we're born with less confidence than men.
Mm.
We're all born with a certain amount of confidence, and the rest we can choose, or nature and nurture affects it. But I think the conditioning and the upbringing we still have in this country still leads to women being held back. You know, if we go through early years, you've got the conditioning about being a polite girl, being modest, being humble, all those sorts of things. The stereotype of being hardworking and perfect at school. All of those things, which in some ways are helpful, but in the longer term in the workplace, cause you to hold back, not to put yourself out there, not to worry about getting something wrong. And yet that conditioning is there for boys as well, but to a less extent. So they are rewarded for taking risks and being courageous, whereas we tend to be rewarded for behaving well and achieving well. And that sort of disparity means that men are more likely, and this has been proved through research, that they're more likely to take a risk and to believe in themselves than women are in general. So
Yes.
there's some truth in it, but I don't think we're born that way. I think it's more about conditioning and our experiences in life.
I totally agree with you. And with my finance experience as well, I've listened to studies that show how women's risk averse and lacking confidence can affect them in investment banks as well, and their personal investments and pensions. So it really does trickle through into different sectors of society. So thanks for that. Some people seem to be, you know, we all know that person who's seem to be born with confidence. Do you think that you can change that about somebody?
Absolutely. As I said, we're born, about 30% of our confidence we're born with. The remaining 70% is made up of our experiences and our conditioning, and also our choices. Because you may lack slightly some confidence compared to somebody else, but if you choose just to stay in that place and not to build your confidence, then you can't change. But if you start to take actions to do things that maybe feel uncomfortable or a bit risky for you, you'll start to build that confidence so that you can be as confident as anybody else, whether you're born with it or not.
And I would agree, having had your services as well and continue to read your materials, that yes, you can change your confidence levels. And there comes a point where you say, I don't have to live an unconfident life anymore, and I'm being proactive and changing my confidence level. Thank you, Jo. So I was just going to move on to, what are the most common career confidence challenges your clients have? So sort of typical career confidence challenges.
Yeah, sure. Great question. So I suppose on the mindset side, if I split them into mindset and therefore practical issues, on the mindset side, there's a lot of imposter syndrome, which is where you don't believe you're good enough, or you believe you're a fraud, and people are going to find out that you're not actually very good at your job. There's a lot of that for people who have been promoted. They quite often feel, actually, I really shouldn't be here. I'm not good enough. And that's a complete stress to carry that sort of doubt around with you all the time. Another key one is perfectionism, where you have very high expectations of yourself. And that means you spend a lot of time working on delivering perfectly. And also it can mean that you procrastinate. You don't even want to get started because you don't want it to go wrong, make a mistake. And then there's the nice girl conditioning that I've talked about before, which holds you back from sharing your successes and putting yourself out there. So that's probably the mindset issues that most are. But in terms of the practical side about what people, the behaviours out there for that come out of that, are a lot of women who struggle to speak up in meetings. They feel they're overlooked or interrupted, particularly in senior meetings. A lot of them struggle to self-promote and share their successes, all down to these mindsets I've just mentioned. And communication skills, being assertive, influencing and persuading, all of those sorts of things are the kind of behaviours that happen because of those mindsets. And that's what I specialise in, those particular areas.
Well, thanks, Jo. I think all of us can resonate with some or all of the things that you've said, whether you're in a corporate career or not. It's really interesting to understand the theory behind why we behave the way we do, and not only understand it, but proactively learn and change some of those habits in careers which can become ingrained in us and affect our promotion and even personal life. So if you could give one piece of advice about improving your confidence at work, so just one piece of advice, and what would it be?
One piece of advice. Okay, so in the career scenario, it would be about taking some small steps forward out of your comfort zone. So whilst you're in that place that feels comfortable and safe, you're not growing. Taking a small step outside your comfort zone. And that could be to try one strategy to be more visible. It could be to have questions prepared in a meeting to speak up. Just one very small step forward that allows you to build your confidence. Well, if I've done that, maybe I can do the next. So breaking anything you want to do down to a very small step and taking that forward one step at a time. And that's the fastest way to build your confidence, definitely.
Thank you. And I think that's the most for long-term goals as well. There's no point rushing into something if you're taking these stepping stones on your confidence and having sessions with you. I'm personally told that I need to have more impact and visibility at work, and that might sound hard to believe, but I was wondering how I can do that.
Right. So having more impact and visibility is, I mean, you're a stylist, so some of your impact will come from the way you look, a great impact to help you stand out. Means you don't have to wear black all the time. You can wear the floral print that you wear. Yeah. So that's part of impact for you, which you've got nailed at the moment. But
thank you.
In terms of having more impact in a career sort of way, we're talking there about speaking up in meetings more. Women particularly don't like to share their successes. We feel that that's boasting and bragging, and maybe we've heard people in the organisation doing it badly and coming across as very arrogant, so we think, oh, I'm not doing that. But if you can start to share some of the things that you've achieved, you can do it in a collaborative way as a learning for people. It doesn't have to be you standing up in a meeting and saying how wonderful you are, but making sure that people know what you're doing and what your ideas are. If you can get all of that across to people, then you have impact and visibility. And it's also thinking about the way that you communicate. If you have speech habits that hold you back, maybe you soften all your words or you apologise. You practice assertiveness, that sort of thing. So I would think about particularly your communication skills and how you can share your successes. Those two things together will have a real difference on your impact and visibility.
Thank you, Jo. And I continue to benefit from your sessions and also the material that you provide on your website as well. And this isn't one I prepared earlier, but rather you did. I've got my signed copy of the Good Enough book.
Brilliant.
So I just, and I genuinely have been a fan of yours, and I have seen the results of your bespoke training as well. So and sessions. So thank you, Jo, for joining us today.
That's brilliant, Becks. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed our chat.
Me too. Thank you.